Well everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Nothing Phone 2 and see how this particular phone holds up in 2024. Now, this phone has just came out last year, and I will tell you in a lot of ways, it's a very good phone. I like this phone a lot when it first came out. I don't know if this would be the first phone I'd recommend a vast majority of people to go ahead and buy, just because there are so many other interesting devices that have came out since this particular phone, but I still think this device has a lot of capability, still very much worth buying, and if you can get it for a good deal, then I'd recommend buying it for sure. So if you want to pick it up, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Nothing Phone 2, on the front of this particular phone, you are getting a 6.7-inch LTPO OLED display. Now, the thing with this particular phone was that, it looked very good. It got fairly high brightness at 1600 nits. It was a 1080p display, and it was still a 120Hz display too, which is really nice to have. I love having 120Hz displays. They perform very, very well. And with this one, it was honestly a pretty good display. It was a hole punch display too. And because you are getting basically like flat sides on this phone, it gives the impression that it is a very, very modern phone. Sometimes when phone manufacturers, like I take a look at the OnePlus phones, the curved side can be a plus or minus for some people, but this flat side, that's kind of the trend that every phone is going for now. And it does kind of make the phone feel more modern. You look at the Galaxy S24s, the iPhones, the rumored Pixel 9, even the Pixel 8 a little bit. These types of phones do kind of have more of a flat side than a curved side, and this one was basically giving you that there, which is very nice. On the bottom of this phone, you're getting a USB Type-C port, which again is very good to have. I love USB-C. You're getting your standard volume buttons, power button on the side too, so there's not really that much being missed out on that, from that, side of things. On the back side of this particular phone, you are getting your standard glass back. Now, that usually would be a con, I would say, for these types of phones because you are getting like a frosted glass back on almost every other phone now. But the advantage, I would say, with this type of device is that you are actually getting that type of, with the Nothing Phone 2, you are basically getting the Glyph interface on the back, which is actually a very nice touch. Having that Glyph interface is a super cool thing to have, and I do think this in and of itself is a very, very cool thing because you can easily just go ahead and just have these lights kind of like have a LED notification coming on in the background. If you're getting a call, it can go and kind of change things up to a little bit. And it is actually a super nice thing to have. I do think like if I'm going to go through and buy a phone, having these types of novelties is very nice to have. And I remember back when I had my Nexus 4, how much I used that LED notification light on the front. I use that LED notification light on the front of my Nexus 4 all the time and I missed it so much. But having something like that, at least kind of as like a novelty on my phone, is actually a super cool thing. Again, this is not a reason I would buy this phone, but it is kind of a nice thing to have. And if you're already going to buy it, it's just kind of like a nice to have feature. You're still getting wireless charging on this phone. You're still getting reversed wireless charging on this phone too. So there's still a lot of overlap going on with this particular device, which is very, very nice to have. Other than that, there's really not like a whole lot else that I would look at as being like a big problem or anything like that with this phone. It's a very good looking phone. I like it a lot for a lot of different reasons. And this is basically another reason why I really do like this phone for the most part. So at least on the exterior, that kind of covers it up there. Now from the price tag standpoint, because this phone has already been out for a little bit of time, there's already been some price drops for this device for the base model at least. And at least for the base model, at least as far as I can see, it is costing about $625 on Amazon right now, which is honestly pretty good. That's a very, very decent price to pay for a device like this. And I do think, once again, if I'm going through and buying some sort of phone like this, I like having this type of capability because it actually does perform fairly well, even with the base model. So if you're looking for a phone with a pretty cheap price tag, this thing is actually there. It's giving you a pretty cheap price tag from that standpoint, which I think is a really, really nice thing to have. Now, in terms of the camera side of things, this particular phone is giving you a dual camera setup on the backside. So it's giving you a 50 megapixel wide and then a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. Now, I will probably tell you, when I compare this phone against basically all the other devices out there, this is probably one of those devices that probably will not hold up that well compared to other phones when it comes down to the camera side. What I mean by that is with the Samsung Galaxy S24, with the Google Pixel 8, with those particular devices, those are giving you significantly better cameras than this particular phone. So if I'm going through and if I'm getting some sort of phone, like I definitely want it to have as great of capability as possible. And this one, you're getting 4K 60 on the back, which is nice, but you're only getting 1080p on the front, which in and of itself is probably going to be another kind of minor thing that can be kind of annoying. I do also think that with the Samsung Galaxy S24, you're getting the telephoto lens, the Pro iPhones are getting telephoto lens. The Pixel 8, you're not getting a telephoto lens, but that camera still is significantly better than the Nothing Phone 2's camera. This is probably, like I said before, one of the bigger disadvantages with this type of device. And I do think, like, if I'm going to go through and buy a phone, I definitely don't want it to be like this. I want it to be of better quality. It's not a terrible camera. You know, I've definitely had worse cameras than this thing. But I will probably tell you, if I have the option to, if I have the opportunity to, I definitely would rather get a device that is going to be giving me a better camera. And this thing is probably one of its most lackluster features here is definitely the camera setup as far as I can tell. So from that side in and of itself, that kind of covers it up here too. Now in terms of software and longevity, this is a pretty nice thing going on for this particular device because these types of phones will last for a very long, they're not going to last for a long amount of time. But on one hand, with stock Android, it's really nice to get a device that is going to be giving you stock Android because you don't really have to worry about like an insanely crazy amount of things. You don't have to worry about anything crazy. You can just go and get this phone. It's going to be stuck on stock Android. And there's a lot of cool little tweaks that this particular version of Android has. So I think that's a cool thing going on for it. Beyond that though, I have no idea how long this phone is going to last. I'm hoping it's going to last for like forever, like at least like 3 or 4 years. But nothing doesn't really have a track record yet of like, you know, lasting in terms of software. So we're just going to have to kind of wait and see what happens. I guess it's just going to be one of those types of things. But I do think beyond that, it's probably going to be perfectly fine. There's really not that much to complain about here either from the software side. Performance-wise, this is also another really good thing going on for this particular phone. Inside of it, you're getting that Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset inside with 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM. Now, this is actually a pretty good amount of RAM to have on a device. Even 8, I would still say is perfectly fine for the most part. But even with that chipset, I mean, that's a very good chipset to have. Much better than what's inside the Nothing Phone 2A. So with the phone like the Nothing Phone 2, you're still getting a chipset that's fairly good, that still has a lot of capability and a lot of quality inside of it. And I do think this in and of itself, once again, is a very nice thing going on for this particular phone. I love being able to just have this phone like this that's just going to be able to just, you know, do really well from a software side. And from a performance side, this phone is going to be giving you basically the best type of performance you could get inside of a 2022 main flagship. So I think that's in and of itself, again, a very good thing going on for this particular phone. And it for sure gets a thumbs up for me without a doubt. So battery life wise, this phone still has a pretty good sized battery inside of it at 4700 milliamp hours, and you're still getting wireless charging and reverse wireless charging as well, which is a super cool feature to have too. So I will tell you, even from the battery life standpoint, without a doubt, definitely gets a thumbs up for me as well. And it's these types of features that end up, you know, doing well over time for long periods of times, and it's definitely one of my favorite things going on for this particular device when it comes down to it as well. So without a doubt, what I can definitely tell you, the Nothing Phone 2, I think it's pretty much still worth buying in 2024. You know, it's a very good phone, still has a lot of stuff going on with it. And I would definitely say, like, if I'm in the market, I definitely would want to go ahead and buy a phone like this, because it definitely gives me the impression that it is still such a good, wonderful phone in so many different ways. It definitely is not a perfect phone. There's definitely some issues with it here and there, but I would probably say for the vast majority of people, like if I'm going to go through and just buy any sort of device, this is definitely one of the ones that have stood out to the test of time for me for a long period of time, and I still think this device is still worth it. I just don't know if this would be the first one I'd recommend people to buy. Like, I would much rather people buy like the Google Pixel 7, the Google Pixel 8, the Samsung Galaxy S23, S24, the iPhone 14, iPhone 15. Those types of devices, I'd probably recommend people to buy over this thing. But I still think this thing is good. I still think this thing still has a lot of capability, and I don't really have that much to complain about from that particular side either. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.